I just wanted to take this time and kind of reflect, um, and also maybe help, I don't know, inspire. I don't like using that word, but I wanted to, I've just been, how can I say this? I just got out a really tough 3 years of my life. And I'm just, I got that confidence back and the motivation and everything I needed. And that is me, that keeps me going, that makes me strive for something more, something better, something bigger, whatever the case may be. So I wanted to just share not only how eBay changed my life personally, but where I came from and what I did way before eBay. I grew up in my family didn't have much money. My dad worked a factory job. We'd go to work every day, go to the bar afterwards, come home, eat, watch TV, go to bed. And he wanted that for me. He tried to get me, as I was growing up, to get me to work in the factory and all this and that. And it wasn't me. It's not what I wanted to do. I just didn't want to be my dad in that essence of he was doing all this work, but yet he was still struggling, don't get me wrong. We had food. Sure, we ate bologna sandwiches a lot. And, a $2 steak from the grocery store was like a big night in our house. One of those steaks where you have to douse it with ketchup to help the taste. But, it's 3-room apartment, not in a great neighborhood, rundown neighborhood, plaster falling off the ceiling. Me and my friends used to sit there and take rubber bands and flip them at the hanging plaster and see who can knock the biggest chunk off. Cockroaches everywhere that you couldn't get rid of because it was an apartment building. And so I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to keep that circle going. I wanted something more for myself. And when you're raised in a situation like that, you become a product of your environment. So many people can't break that circle. They just become a part of their environment. And I wanted to break that circle. I didn't want to be what I saw around me. You would have the people struggling day to day and busting their asses, not getting nowhere. Or you'd have the people, the kids, the older guys who would go and just steal. They'd break into cars and steal money and break into factories, warehouses, I should say, and steal stuff. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to be associated with that. When my friends would go out car hopping, that's where you just walk down the street, you check every car to see if it's unlocked, and you take whatever you can get. I would never go. It's not something I wanted to do. When they would say, "Hey, James, we're going to hit this warehouse up." And no, that's not me. I could have easily went down the road that so many people did, whether it was selling drugs or stealing and just working a factory, working the same old common job. And there was no way I wanted to do that. I wanted more. And when you're in an environment like that, it's hard to see past the streets you're living. That's why you become a product of your environment. Back then, there was no online. You couldn't see the world unless you ventured out into it or saw something on TV. Or in my case, heard it through music. I used music to motivate me to Music was my escape out of that hole. And obviously once we had friends who started driving and stuff, and we got out and we were able to see the county areas and stuff like that, you're like, wow, people live in that house, things like that. It just fires you up more. So when I was 10 years old, I started dumpster diving with my mom. Like I said, we didn't have much money, so for extra money, my mom would go through dumpsters, and I would go with her, and I'd get in and tear open the bags and hand her whatever she told me to hand her. And we would take it down in the country to small auctions and auction it off. And that's how we'd get our extra money. And the one thing that still stuck out, stuck in my mind over all the years was I always wore used clothes from thrift stores. And I was able to get a brand new coat that I wanted, that I saw at a Sears store, because we had that extra money. And that was embedded in my mind that, man, I didn't want to do what my dad was doing, but what my mom was doing, the potential was so great. I mean, you could take nothing and turn it into something. And I love that aspect of it. I used to, when I would dumpster dive with her, keep stuff for myself, toys, whatever I thought I could sell to friends. So I set up an alley store, that's what my friends would call it, where at the end of my yard, in the back alleys, I would just set up a store and all the stuff I found and sell it to people going by and friends and what have you. And I was kind of known for trading a lot as a kid. A lot of people would not really want to trade with me because I was always going to get the better end of the deal. And everybody knew that. And I was told a lot, man, you're just ripping these people off. And it's like, well, if they want to trade, they want to trade. And if I can talk them into it, then I'm going to talk them into it. I heard a lot, you could sell ice to Eskimos, so I had something there. I had something to shoot for, but I didn't know it at the time. Now that I look back, I'm like, man, I was built for selling on eBay and doing what I do now. But at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and it sucked ass not fitting in with any of the, things that I knew at the time of what you could do to make money. A few of the other little things that I did growing up in the city to make money, obviously, with the dumpster diving and selling stuff. When I did everybody did was mow neighbors' lawns. So you'd mow the neighbors' lawns and go around the neighborhood, try to make extra money by mowing lawns. The old people in the neighborhood taking out their trash for them, get a couple bucks that way. So there's always ways to pick up little cash here and there that I did. And which is fine, but I always loved the free way of making money, or the anticipation of something. Mowing the lawn was repetitive and boring, and sure, I got my $10, but it was boring as hell. I didn't look forward to it. One of the things I looked forward to was a friend of mine. He was walking by our bar one night and found a $100 bill. And he brought up the idea. He's like, we need to go, because we're in the city, so there's corner bars everywhere. We need to start walking past these bars at 1 a.m. when they close, and start looking on the ground, because so many people would stumble out of the bar, stumble for their keys with money in their pocket, and they would drop money trying to get their keys out. And we found decent amount of 5s and 10s and 1s, and we would always find money doing that. So he got me hooked on that. So I was constantly going out at night searching the street for cash at these bars after they closed. And you don't do bad doing that. Of course, it's not everything, but so that was another way I made money and tried to do things as a kid growing up. Another thing I like to do, as I said before, was trade and barter and stuff like that. And then there was this one situation that sticks out the most to me. After the very first Nintendo NES system came out with the robot and everything, of course, we didn't have the money to get anything like that. So this guy I had met who lived a couple of blocks away, his parents bought him whatever he wanted, so he had the system. And after about 2 months, he just got tired of it. It wasn't his thing. And I'm like, I want your system. What do I need to do to get to trade for that system? And we were always bike riding and riding bikes everywhere. So there was this set of rims he wanted. I don't remember. God, it's been so long. They were like 48 spoke. I don't even know if that's pronounced right. Araya? God, it's been so long. Araya rims. I can't even think of the exact name, if that's it or not. He wanted a set of those rims. He's like, if you can find me a set of those rims, I will trade you this Nintendo system for those rims. So it was on. So I had to backtrack and figure out how I was going to get those rims. I knew somebody who had a set. Since we rode bikes a lot, I was riding bikes with all different, groups of people around the city. So I knew somebody who had those rims. So I went to him and said, hey, I need those rims. What do you want for them? What can I get to trade for you for those rims? And he actually wanted a pair of mags, is what we call them. There's a star rim. He actually wanted a different set for his bike. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can find you those rims and we'll make a trade. So I started out, what did I do? I found a guy. I wish I could remember his name. I want to say Daryl, but I don't think that's it. So I found a kid who had those rims, and I had already started my swapping. I had $5. I took that $5 and I ended up buying a Diamondback bike frame from this cat for $5. It was a very nice frame, and I can't believe I got it for him for $5. I'm guessing maybe it was hot. I don't know. I didn't ask questions. He wanted to get rid of the frame. All he wanted was $5. Here's your money. I got this frame. So I had this frame, and I go, I need those star rims. Would you be willing to trade for them? And I go, I got this nice Diamondback frame and fork set. I would be willing to trade this for your rims. And he said yes. So that started it. So $5, I bought the frame and forks. I traded them for this guy's star rims. I took these star rims, went to the guy who had those 48 spoke Araya, if that's what it's called, rims, made the swap there, and then I booked it on the bike over to this guy's house. And I'm like, I got your rims. And he couldn't believe it. He's like, what? So he packed up that Nintendo. I'm sitting here watching him. He's putting it in the box and the styrofoam, and I'm just sitting there like shaking, going, it's mine. It's mine. I will never forget riding home from his house on the bike. If you remember that box, it was big. It was a big box. I have it sitting on my handlebars, holding on, trying to pedal the bike with this, hoping nobody jumps me on the way home. And I'm just booking it as fast as I can with this big ass box on my bike. And I get it home, hooked it up, and was in heaven. So I always did everything I could to just get what I wanted, get what I needed, and without doing the same old mundane crap. So as you got older, I had to get a job, had to do this, because I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So at one time I was working a few different jobs at the same time, and I finally landed a job at a music store. I've always wanted to work at a music store. I used to say since I was like 14 or 15, if I have to work, I want to work in a music store. So I ended up getting my dream job working in a music store and worked there for 9 years. Does that thing keep going down when I look? But as time went on, music stores started going downhill when the whole online thing started getting bigger and bigger. So I saw the writing on the wall. I knew I love this job. I knew it wasn't going to pay any bills. Through the years while I was there, I tried other little things. Like I bought a tattoo kit one time and started doing tattoos for extra money. So I tried doing other little things to generate money while I was working retail. Until one day in about 1999, 2000, a cat I was working with, he had an internet connection. And this is obviously before you could get internet anywhere. And he started telling me about this thing called eBay. And then he showed me in the music store where we worked, we had a box set, a Star Wars Laserdisc box set. And it was marked down to, I don't even remember the amount, but nothing. It was clearancing out. It was toward the end of Laserdiscs. But this box set on eBay was selling big money, big money. So he bought one, and he told me about it. He goes, if you buy one, I'll sell it for you. I'm like, cool. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. He told me, fees involved. I'm like, keep whatever you feel is, you need to keep for yourself, for your troubles, and, give me the rest. So I bought this Laserdisc box. I gave it to him. He took it home. A couple weeks go by. I think nothing of it, blah, blah, blah. Of course, eBay is still in my head, but I don't have a computer. The cheapest computer at the time was $3,000. And there was no way I could afford $3,000 on a retail music store job. So a couple weeks later, he walked in. He says, I got something for you. And he hands me a pile of cash. A pile of cash that was more money than my paycheck. I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what? So selling one item. And at this time, I was already going to thrift stores and buying stuff for myself. That's how I got my video game collection big. I was always going to the store, buying thrift stores and finding video game stuff and building a video game collection and a toy collection just from cheap thrift store stuff. So I'm like, crap, I got to get me a computer. So I started saving every penny I could to try to save up for a computer. But during this time, I would go to a library, get on their computer, and look up eBay, and I would just search eBay and go, man, look at all this stuff that's selling. I can't believe this. It's like your own store. I was freaking out. So I'm saving and trying to save for this computer, and it was going to take forever. But I knew where I wanted to go and what I had to do. I was 30 years old before I realized what I wanted to do, how I wanted to make money in life. Before that, I was just so lost. I never fit in with anything. Nothing ever grabbed my attention long enough except working in the music store, and that was a dying thing. I was freaking out, didn't know what to do until this fell in my lap, and I'm like, wow. And about that time, I had met a person who eventually became my wife. And I ended up, telling her, what are my dreams? What do I want to do? And well, I want to get a computer and sell stuff on eBay. I have this huge CD collection from working in the music store for 9 years of promo CDs, rare CDs, things that I knew to pick up and learned over the years. I had this huge video game and video game memorabilia collection of, plush animals, plush Sonic stuffed animals. And so I'm like, I want to get a computer. I want to start selling on eBay. I'm going to start with selling this stuff, and I'm going to go to the thrift stores. I'm going to buy stuff, and I'm going to resell it. And things got serious with her, and I ended up moving in with her out of the city. Yay! And we were going to get married and everything. So we ended up going to Best Buy, and she bought my first computer. I remember getting my first computer, and I was always at her house looking at the computer and trying to figure things out and learn how to do it and reading how to sell on eBay over and over and over again, trying to get into my head and what do I got to do. And what kind of things do I need to look for? And so when I got that computer, I remember right here, actually to my left, when we moved in this house together, I hadn't even set up the computer yet. It was in the box. I set it right here on the floor. And I had a desk right here in this corner. And I started setting up the computer. And the first item I sold on eBay was a Sega Master System video game that was sealed that I had picked up at the thrift store for a couple bucks. I can't remember what it eventually sold for, 15 or 20 bucks. But I know it turned into a non-paying bidder. So I knew how to take care of non-paying bidders right away. But that was just the start of eBay and selling, and it was just like almost like I went from the 15-year-old kid, working my way to that Nintendo, to all those other years, 15 years of life not really mattering. And I found myself again. It was like during those years, I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going. And I just had this like time warp. And it was just the feeling of freedom and buying something and selling it, and it changed my life. And here I am 18 years later, still full-time selling on eBay and loving every minute of it. And I'm really trying to put more effort into making videos and sharing knowledge that I've gained all these years and what have you with everybody else, to all these other kids who maybe, you see so many people who don't know where to go with their lives, don't know what to do. And if I can help one person, just even if it's the kid in the city right now who's on his phone going, how am I supposed to make money in life? Oh, what? Let me walk by bars at night and see what I can find. The kid who doesn't want to get tangled up into the drugs and the stealing. If I can help one person do one thing, man, I'm happy and fine with that. So that's just why I wanted to share my story and what eBay has done for me, and just buying and selling. I mean, I've drove and drive some pretty nice cars. I live in a pretty great house. And eBay is a big part of that. Working from home now, taking care of my dad who's 83 years old. I couldn't ask for more. I'm doing what I love in life. I still, at 48 years old, I am 48, right? 48? I was born in 71. Yeah, 48. At 48 years old, still doing what I love to do in life, doing my passion. I don't need to be a millionaire. I don't need to have all the best things in the world. I came from nothing. I can live on 2 cans of SpaghettiOs and meatballs every day, all day, every day, if I have to. I don't need, $100 dinner. I don't need a Lamborghini that costs me $25,000 a month to upkeep it, or whatever that case may be. But as long as I have the roof over my head, I don't have to worry about drive-bys, which I still have nightmares, like a PTSD reaction of drive-bys. As long as I can sleep at night and not worry about anything, a roof over my head, and a fast car in my driveway, I am good. And as long as I can smile every day, knowing that what I am doing is my passion, is what I've been bred to do since I was 10 years old. And that might seem weird to some people, but there's nothing that beats smiling, doing things your own way, on your own terms. And you have control. You have control of how much money you can make by learning new things, learning new items to sell, going out and finding it, putting that work in, putting that effort into driving to 5 different thrift stores if you have to, or staying up till 2 in the morning listing if you have to. You're in control. You don't have to worry about that freaking alarm clock going off. And if you're going to be late for work, and if you're worried about always being late, like I was, not being able to sleep at night because you knew that damn alarm clock was going to go off. And if you were asleep, you weren't going to hear it. You don't have to worry about that shit. And that's what makes me smile every day. You know, if you've seen the cars I drove, that there makes up for it all for me. Because that was one of my... People asked me when I was a kid, when I was growing up, what do you want to be? And I never really had an answer. I had 2 answers. One was a race car driver. So that's my love of fast cars. The other was to be happy. That was my main answer. People ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And knowing so many adults that were not happy doing what they were doing, I just wanted to be happy. And thankfully, eBay has afforded me that life. There's my story. Thanks for listening.